So this week, we're going to actually, truly this time, for reals.
For real?
We're going to talk
Okay.
about satellites buzzing above your head. And once you're paranoid enough, we're going to also actually probably, most definitely, almost guaranteed, talk about an OS dedicated to shredding your data.
Maybe.
Probably. I wrote a really short episode this time, Michael, so that we can get through everything. This is our episode of 2025 to show people we're professionals.
We are finally going to get through without skipping a section of the show. Maybe. We'll see.
If we stop carrying on with this much ado opening here.
We always like to do a do's because this is how we express ourselves.
Welcome to Destination Linux. If you're still here, we're discussing the latest news, hot topics, gaming, mobile, and all things open source in Linux. My name is Ryan, and with me today are the Cache, C-A-C-H-E, of dad jokes, Jill and Michael.
Nice.
So why did the Linux user refuse to use Windows?
Because it sucks.
Well, yes, but also, that's just fact. This is the dad joke because he didn't want to deal with that painful drama in the window panes. Yeah,
man, that's good. So good.
And why don't penguins use Windows? Because they prefer their ice to be free and open source.
Wow, that's so bad. We'll also be discussing Debian's latest release. Now, let's get this show on the road toward Destination Linux.
Were those dad jokes AI written?
Yes, 100%.
I was like, okay, the pain one, that kind of makes sense, but it's bad. And the other one doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it didn't really quite make sense, but I tried to make it sound funny.
Come on, AI.
So good. All right.
You know, I actually do have a cache database, a database that we could just go through. I do actually have that. For example, Ryan hates the fact that I have all these dad jokes and impressions, and I constantly do this one impression, and he just got really mad and started yelling. He was like, "You need to stop it!" I'm like, and it was just all about my impression of doing a flamingo, and then he just kept getting mad at it. And I was like, "Why?" And he just would never explain it, and so I just had to put my foot down and make sure he understood.
We're never going to get through this episode. Never going to get through this episode. All right. Community
we kind of promised we need to
this week. Our first feedback comes from Tony, and they say, so what bet did Michael lose that he had to wear a DOS Geek t-shirt? First of all, Tony, that's rude. Why would you assume he lost a bet to wear my t-shirt? He is a huge fan of everything I do. Number one, he loves my art that I do for my YouTube videos. That's his favorite. And number two, he loves my content. So what do you mean what bet he lost?
We did a best 2 out of 3, and he got 2 of the 3. So
2 of the 3. Actually, what happened is Michael bet me that he could install Arch, and turns out he can't. He's just not skilled enough. And so a little too complicated for him. So after losing the bet, he was forced to wear my shirt. And that is the true story there, Tony, of why Michael
not
a couple
the true
episodes.
Story. The true story is that we had this unending, intense battle of versus Tetris, and he won barely, and I had to be like, okay, fine.
Well, my story was way better.
Yeah, but it's also not neither one of them are accurate. So whatever actually happened, I don't even remember.
I think you were wearing it to like paint or something, and then it was time to do the show.
I was wearing it because it was like an everyday shirt that you don't go out inside it with.
You just kind of wear it.
You just kind of wear it, and it's like, it's there, it's in the closet. Who cares? It's fine. And then I had it on. And he's like, and I actually changed the shirt, and he comes back and he's like, "Hey, what happened to the shirt?" And I'm like, "Okay, fine. You saw it on me. I guess I have to do it. I sort of accidentally committed."
That's
okay.
Sweet, Michael. That's really sweet. You're such a good friend. Our next piece of feedback comes from Bruce, because that was too short. I'm not going to just do that little comment there. We got to have another one. And he says, "Hi, DLers. Merry Christmas and congrats on 400 episodes. Okay, on to serious business. I think you could have spent a little more time, Bruce, congratulating us on 400, telling us how great we are before you went on to serious business.
And also, more important, why is that not serious? Are you not congratulating us on 400 episodes? What? Where's the joke?
That's a good point. They're like, on to serious business. That is serious business, Bruce. Jeez. Okay. Bruce goes on to say, it absolutely kills me that every time I get a kernel update, I'm running MX Linux, it kills OBS Studio. Is there a simple fix for this? I'm sitting here having wasted the last hour trying to get OBS running again after a kernel update, and I'm ready to scream. Thanks in advance. I can see why now Bruce wanted to get down to business. This is very frustrating. Thankfully, not something I've ever experienced. But Jill, what do you think about this? What are some options Bruce might or Tony might have here?
Yeah, so MX Linux has a Debian stable version and a Debian testing version. So we don't know which one you're using. But if you update the kernel on Debian, it would actually be best to compile OBS from scratch. I actually know several people who do this that use OBS in production. So that's something if you update your kernel.
You're a big Debian fan. Why in the world would I need to recompile OBS every time I do a kernel update? No other distro I've ever run.
I know.
In the history of me running distros, which now we're at like 6, 7, maybe 8 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
Michael remembers, but Pepperidge Farms knows for sure.
Something.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Have I ever had to like recompile a program every time I do a kernel update? That seems like a major flaw of Debian. And it may be something OBS does, but I say it's a flaw of Debian because I don't run Debian and I've never run into that in any other distro.
Well, regular Debian, you can still install the latest stable version of OBS and it will work fine. But if you're updating the kernel, then you need to update OBS with compiling to get the latest and greatest. I don't know why, but that's just been what's
come on,
going on.
Debian, fix this crap. Like,
I mean,
Tony or Bruce, whichever it is, they need your help. Fix it.
Yeah,
I suspect it's because of like the when you go get the regular version inside of the packages for OBS in Debian, it is very old. Like, very old. And obviously because that's what Debian does. So I don't know why it needs to be compiled anyway, because why is there not any deb packages? Like, why can't you pull the deb from the PPAs or that sort of thing and make packages that way? But it is because it's just an older system. And if you're using MX Linux and you're using the stable branch version, then that's probably why you're having those issues. But one of the things that popped up to me was that the Flatpak is the official format that the OBS team recommends. So maybe that is a good option for you.
Yeah. And I was thinking that too, because I've actually used the Flatpak of OBS on my Steam Deck and it works really, really good. And there is a Snap version of OBS as well that is improving, but I know there are some issues with it. But I have also used the unofficial app image builds of OBS in the past, and they worked well. I even streamed with it, the app image version, experimental, and it worked.
I have run MX. I'm a huge fan of MX. And Dolphin listens to this show, who is the creator of MX. So Dolphin, if you could write in and let us know or comment in the YouTube comments, Dolphin's usually in our YouTube comments, let us know like, hey, is this something Debian needs to fix? Is this something you've seen periodically happen? Is this something if they run your advanced hardware support edition, they wouldn't run into perhaps? Because I know that has later drivers and things. I'm curious to know your thoughts on that. So let us know there. But really appreciate you letting us know, Bruce, about that issue. I didn't know it existed. I would never run a distro personally, like Debian or something that, you had to recompile stuff every time. That's annoying. Or try to reinstall.
Says the guy who loves Arch and the AUR.
Arch, you don't have to do that with. Arch runs perfectly every time.
But the AUR is also compiling. Every time you do it, you got to compile.
But once it's compiled, it's done. Like compiling's fine, but I want to do it once and be done.
But every time you update an AUR package, it's going to be compiling again. So,
but it's like, it's not because it's broken, it's because it has an update. And it just runs and does its thing. And
that's fair.
That's
fair.
It didn't break. All right.
But yeah. Fair enough.
You know,
But
Jill,
it's actually great that we have. Hold on, it's actually great that Dolphin is in the thing. So we get the email from Bruce asking us for a solution. We don't have a solution, but we can get it for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we have a solution, a flat pack. We have a solution.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And Jill, do you feel guilty that you can, talk people into running Debian all the time, and then you find out that they have to do stuff like this in order to?
No.
I feel like you should feel guilty. Like,
No.
I want you, Jill, tonight to reflect on how many people you've hurt by recommending Debian to them.
Well, they sure have learned a lot about Linux, haven't they?
By having to fix it.
I mean, honestly, I still even compile MPlayer. I compile it on every machine I use because you get better performance out of it.
But you compile it once. You're not compiling it every time you do an update.
No,
I assume,
no.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. No, I'm teasing for all the fans of Debian. Debian is I can't even say it. I can't even lie. All right. So if you want to send in your comments, go to destinationlinux.net/comments and send them in to us, or destinationlinux.net/forum. And you can.
But it's not surprising that the Arch guy does not like Debian, because they are the polar opposites for sure.
Yeah.
Slow and old, fast and edgy. You know what I mean? Like, there's just nothing to compare. Anyway, send your hate mail to destinationlinux.net/comments. Can't wait to read it.
You chose Linux for its stability and security, but as threats grow more sophisticated, detecting them in time without putting your systems at risk is more critical than ever. Traditional endpoint agents can cause downtime and performance issues, leaving visibility gaps. But isn't there a better way? Well, there is. It's called Sandfly Security, because Sandfly Security is the agentless Linux security platform. Sandfly not only does endpoint detection and response, but also performs SSH key tracking, password auditing, and drift detection to find the widest range of threats. Whether your servers are in the cloud or on premises or even embedded devices, Sandfly protects them all without the need for risky agent installations. That's the most important part. The agentless stuff is just awesome, because you just you update the security system rather than having to update every single system and every single instance with all these agents. So awesome. And Ken Kleiner, the senior security engineer at the University of Massachusetts, explains it best. He says, Sandfly is the first product that I've seen that accurately and quickly detects thousands of signs of compromise on the Linux platform. Its unique method automates tasks that would be impossible to perform manually. So you can get fast, non-invasive protection for your critical systems. No agents, no downtime, just smarter security that works. Visit destinationlinux.net/Sandfly to learn more. That's destinationlinux.net/Sandfly. Sandfly.
Did you know that you can actually try this on 20 hosts? So you can try this for free, make sure it works for your system, see what we're talking about, check it out, test it, see how amazing it is, and then you're welcome. You're welcome. Go there now and check it out. You know what's funny, Michael, is that our next story is Debian 12.9 release. After my little
rant,
my little rant there.
So speaking of Debian,
so really exciting news, everyone! Debian 12.9 Bookworm has released, which means you're going to have to recompile all of your programs once you update to it.
Sorry, Bruce.
That's a joke. People I don't really dislike Debian. Oh gosh, it's so hard to lie. It's the 8th release of Bookworm. 12.3 was skipped, so that's why it's the 8th release.
So the reason why 12.3 was skipped was because there was some kind of issue with extended 4. But also, why was it skipped? You could it doesn't. The numbers are arbitrary. You could just say 12.3. Anyway,
they had to recompile the numbers to do that, and it would take too long. So,
that makes sense.
In this one, there's 72 bug fixes. Hey, good news, Bruce. Maybe one of the bug fixes is the OBS thing. It's possible. I didn't look, but it could be in there. 72 chances that it was one of the bug fixes, and 38 security fixes. None of that may be particularly exciting, but what actually is exciting is MX Linux is updated, because I like it.
It's so hard to tell what you think about Debian, man. It's so hard.
So I'm here on record. I'm going to tell everybody that if you want to run Debian, don't. Just go straight to MX Linux. because like if you want to be in that world, MX Linux is the best version of Debian that you're going to possibly get. And MX 23.5 has released. They have a KDE version.
Hey, just real quick, Jill, what distro do you use? Can you remind me?
What am I using on this rig now?
Just one of her other 12,000 machines.
Your main distribution. What is your?
It's Debian. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So I just
want to make it clear.
On hundreds of my machines, I'm using Debian because Debian is the Swiss Army knife. It supports all the older architectures, or it has a community support for all the older architectures of computers. Anything from Sun Solaris systems to DEC Alphas and the like. And it still supports i386. And that's very important in today's world where most distros don't support 32-bit.
That's true. So there is a benefit there. And I just wanted to be like, you can go to destinationlinux.net/comments, but, Jill just did most of your work for you.
The reason why MX is the best Debian is not only because Dolphin's awesome and does all kinds of additional things on top of Debian to make it very user-friendly, but he has Advanced Hardware Support Edition, which that means you get the latest and greatest hardware drivers, and you still get the stability that you love with Debian. So one of the problems with Debian is it's a bajillion years behind. It's very slow. Like that's literally the number. It's 1 bajillion years behind every other distro.
It's funny. I have a feeling that they're going to make a new release in a few months for Debian 13. And you're going to be like, see, it's updated now. And then you're like, yeah, but then it's going to be frozen for 2 or 3 years. So
exactly. It's it'll be a bajillion years old. And
so apparently the translation of bajillion is 2 or 3.
2 or 3 years behind. Yeah. I mean, think about all that happens in 3 years. 2 or 3 years ago, I had a positive outlook on life. Now, 3 years.
Well, Ryan, since you love Arch so much, why don't you run Debian SID? There you go.
Yeah, Debian SID. That's an option. I like Debian SID. Debian SID is a really interesting one. So if you're going to run Debian, use MX Linux. And then if you still don't want to listen to me, at least use Debian SID and you'll get some updated stuff. But if you have to recompile things every time, probably not great.
I mean, also that one's literally called unstable. So not everybody's going to want to benefit from have that set up for you.
Debian testing is great. Actually, I run that as opposed to Debian stable because even testing is very stable.
There you go. So, you get some more up-to-date packages and testing and things like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of packages,
one of the things that go ahead.
I was like, speaking of packages, MX Linux has their new release with 23? What was it? 24.3? Is that the number?
23.5.
23. Oh, okay. There we go. 23.5. I am very excited for the fact that it has I think it might be the first, maybe it's not the first, but it's one of the first to have XFCE 420 in the release. So there people who want to have the latest XFCE can check out MX Linux for that.
Yep. And they have the MX package installer enhancements, which is updated and improved handling of package persistence, making it easier to manage software across different systems states. So, this allows users to install packages from all kinds of different sources like apt, Flatpak, Deb, and MX testing. So again, this is where you could get your Flatpak for the OBS that we talked about earlier. MX makes Debian great, and that's just the fact. It's indisputable. That's period. End of story. Jill, you don't need to comment. I've already ended this segment, and we will move on. Okay, Jill, go ahead.
So, Jill, what did you want to say?
No. It's okay. I just want to emphasize that MX Linux, because it is Debian based, also still supports 32-bit for my older machines. They have spins that are 32-bit. And it works great also on the Raspberry Pi. They have a really nice Raspberry Pi image that I've used before. And
so what about the people who are going to comment and say, hey, Ubuntu's based on Debian, right?
Yes. But Ubuntu, you can't use on really old machines.
That's true.
They don't have a 32-bit variant anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, like they should just do a tagline: Debian. If it belongs in a museum, we can run on it.
If it belongs in a museum, Debian belongs on it.
That's nice. That's a good tagline right there. I like that. All right. So I promised you we were going to get to a distro that shreds your data, because who doesn't want that as a daily driver? And we're going to deliver, Michael. We're going to talk
First
about...
of all, it's not a daily driver for those who are curious. It's a distro that's a tool that you put in your toolbox to run shredding functions if you want to,
Michael.
But you probably shouldn't.
April Fool's is right around the corner, and you're ruining my whole April Fool's run.
So it's currently January, right?
It's right around the corner, man.
Right? Every holiday is right around the corner, whatever Ryan wants it to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so my goodness. Fine, we don't run it as a daily driver, but ShredOS is a specialized Linux distro solely for securely erasing data from disk. This is something that I know a lot of people actually store their old machines forever, even though they have no plans of using them, because they're so afraid that their data is going to get into the wrong person's hands. They work on their taxes or other things on these machines. They've read all the news. And so they kind of leave their machines in a closet because they don't want to sell them when they get a new machine, because they're afraid their data is going to get in somebody's hands. This also happens a lot with servers, by the way. People don't want to resell their servers on companies and things because they're afraid, again, their data will get in the wrong hands.
Why not just take out the drives and the disks and everything and then sell the rest?
There you go. That's kind of the key. But a lot of people are not comfortable getting into their computer. Like
that's true.
Them, that's scary, opening up a computer or anything else, even though it's not. It's super easy. And if you just follow some very basic YouTube, anybody can get in there.
Especially now. Unless the laptop is very old, then you might hate life at that point. But, some of these laptops are actually easy to open, and some of them are just
some of them glue everything down now. So that makes it a little more difficult. But either way, if you're going to give it over to a family member, maybe you have a nephew, child, whatever you're going to hand it down to, one of the things you can use is ShredOS. And you install ShredOS onto a USB drive, you boot from it, and the program uses nwipe to annihilate data on your chosen disk. It's basically replaced something called Debian. Did you ever use that, Jill? Debian back in the day?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm actually really happy there's a new fork of Derek's Boot and Nuke Live CD. I used it for years, Ryan. I remember actually back in the early 2000s doing a demonstration of Debian for my students so they could learn to correctly wipe their hard drives. And in fact, Debian was in every PC builder's and system administrator's IT toolkit, and it was often their first introduction to even using Linux.
My first was not that, but I do remember having Debian on like a USB or a live CD for years. And it hasn't been, it's been deprecated for a very long time. They haven't been making it for years. I don't remember when they stopped, but
it stopped in 2015. I literally just said that, Michael. Gee,
I wasn't.
You never listened to me.
Sometimes, unfortunately, I can't listen to you because you talk so much, and it just goes through eventually, But
one ear out the other.
Exactly. It just sometimes it's like a flood of talking from Ryan. Sometimes you just gotta.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. I know that's an April Fool's joke. An April Fool's.
Yes, exactly. It's right around the corner. You might as well, But it's very cool. I mean, I like the fact that this exists because I know I used Debian for many years after it was no longer maintained. So I'm glad that and also I like the name ShredOS. It's a good name.
Yeah, it's great.
So Jill, why couldn't you run this as a daily driver? I feel like you've just challenged people. Can someone in our community try to run this as a daily driver and let us know how it goes? 'Cause it's got to have an OS base. And then, I don't know, does it just boot right into the shredding program, or is there like a desktop?
I think it boots into the shredding.
No, it boots in the shredding, and it's a terminal GUI, as it were.
It would be so cool if you could run it as a daily distro. At any moment you could wipe the whole thing. It'd be a great hacker tool, actually. Have no you just cops come, you just shred it right there. You're already in it.
Well, okay.
All right,
to be clear, it's great, and nwipe is really great too. It also does take quite a bit of time for this to function.
The cops are knocking on your door.
It's like, oh, just give me a second.
25 more minutes.
Yeah, it's like we're open the doors. 17 minutes. It'll be.
All right, so how does this work? It has multiple data wiping methods, including fill with zeros, DoD short, Gutman wipe, among others, for thorough data destruction. It supports 32-bit and 64-bit systems, Jill, so you can go around and erase all your machines if you want.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. And then it comes equipped with tools like HD Parm, Hex Edit, and others to aid in disk management and cleanup. And then after data erasing, it can generate a PDF report of the process so that you can, if you need it for compliance reporting or other things, it can produce that for you as well. So pretty cool little tool there to check out. ShredOS. If you've not played with it, don't play with it on your main machine. That would be bad. Yeah. But if you need to erase a machine, go have fun with it, because this is
maybe
a great
put it on
way
a VM or something,
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or if you have a spare, that you could do that as well. ShredOS would be a really good example of, like, you want to take the data off the existing machine, but still be able to use that machine. If you would like to completely erase the data for no one to able to use your system whatsoever ever again, you could do what Mr. Robot does and put it in a microwave.
Yeah, supposedly. Also, it does have some limitations. If you're using SSDs due to the nature of flash memory, they suggest, literally on their site, physical destruction for SSDs. So it's better to just destroy those drives. Yeah. You can microwave them, as Michael suggested. By the way, don't put it in the microwave. We want no responsibility.
We're making it's a joke based on a TV show.
Yes,
and as we all know, TV shows are not suggestive of actual methods of doing anything properly.
I don't want any responsibility for your microwave blowing up, because you heard it on the show.
It will blow.
It will blow.
Putting metal into your microwave, not a great idea.
Drill it, shoot it, stomp it, sledgehammer it, all kinds of different things you can do with it. Chainsaw it, have fun, but we can't.
Just not the microwave.
Yeah, and speaking of your other question, Ryan, I know ShredOS can be used as a installation, just basic Linux install, because you can put G-links in it, E-links, and do terminal web browsing and whatnot. So
you can use it as a daily driver.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Listen, if you run ShredOS as a daily driver, please send us pictures. Tell us how long you've run it for. You at least got to do it for like a week, and then tell us your experience of using ShredOS as a daily driver. I will be your biggest fan, and you will go down in Destination Linux history as awesome.
Yeah. It's a lot bigger than Tom's Nuke and Boot, the original Linux utility on floppy disk, and that was running BusyBox, and even with that, you could still surf the web and whatnot in the terminal. So.
Nice. Michael, this could be a challenge for you if you lose like a bet or something. You gotta use.
No, we already established that the biggest thing for me to do, the most difficult thing for me to do, is to wear a DOS Geek t-shirt.
Yeah.
That's so rude. That's so rude, man. We talked about satellites buzzing over your head. I mean, this is a common occurrence.
Yes, I mean, of course. I mean, they're in orbit, so they technically are always doing that, but I wonder how close they are for you to hear the buzzing. It's very terrifying.
Now, there is people who are hearing a lot of buzzing, Michael. Before we get into the main story here, these drones in New York and New Jersey. Have you been following this story of these mysterious drones that have appeared, and people do not know the origins of these drones? I know you're a big news person.
Most certainly have not. I have heard about it, and that is it.
Just in general, that there were drones.
I heard that it was happening. It was like someone mentioned it on like Discord, the Discord server or something, maybe, or maybe it was like, I don't know. I saw it on a YouTube video, someone randomly mentioning it or something, like a comic or something like that. And then you also mentioned it a couple weeks ago or something.
And
I don't really
that we did it for our 400th episode.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't really, I don't know any details beyond how some people are like, oh, I'm a headline reader. I didn't even read the headline. I just know that something relevant happened or something. That's it.
Literally, the world could be an Armageddon, like ending. There's no food. There's nukes have gone off, everything. And Michael will be showing up here on Wednesday like, so, hey, guys, I know nothing about what's going on outside. Zombie apocalypse. You'd have no clue.
Yep. I avoid the news as much as possible.
That's smart, actually.
That's my
Jill, are
policy.
you aware of these mysterious drones that appeared in
Yes.
New York and New Jersey?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I was actually asked, to get the opinion of the hosts of Destination Linux about what these drones are. Like, what was the cause? So, Jill,
Why?
Jill, I know that we have no definitive conclusion. Like, nobody, as far as I can tell, looking through the news today, knows who was operating these drones or what they were for. But what is your best guess? It could be silly or real, of what these drones were in New Jersey and New York for. Like, what do you think was the purpose of these drones?
I'll say for the zombie apocalypse.
Fair enough.
Coming.
Seems legit.
It is coming. All right, Jill predicted something negative, Michael. That's incredible.
I think this is a first. Mark it down, people.
Oh my gosh. She's giggling about it. Who giggles about a zombie apocalypse, Jill? My gosh. Unbelievable. All right, so Michael, there are these drones. They were flying around, and what was interesting is the government, like the FAA, FBI, all these agencies got involved, and they kept getting on TV and saying things like, "We don't know where they're coming from." And I'm like, how does the biggest spy network government in the world, with all of these satellite images, we've got jets and planes and sensors and radar and all of this stuff, have no idea after weeks of where drones are coming from and where they're going? That seems very unlikely to me that we don't know where they're coming from.
It's an interesting point. Yeah. I mean, I would imagine that they would have. It depends on maybe they are just a random people doing drones,
Yeah.
Okay. So I looked up conspiracy theories because we need to dig into this.
Of course you did. Okay, first, before you get into it, I have a theory that actually might be right. There's a company recently announced that they removed the geofencing from their drones, and people can just get a warning now and still do it. So maybe people are just doing it. So
one of the conspiracies was because these also people were spotting them over very sensitive military sites and other things.
Yeah.
That other governments were spying on us. And then the fact, if our government's like, we don't know where they come from, if that's true, like that scares the crap out of me. Like we have all this, we don't know. I don't know what those drones are. They just fly around and, whatever. That's pretty scary. But the best conspiracy theory I heard was that they're part of a covert operation called Project Bluebeam. All right, are you getting this down, Michael? I see you taking notes.
Yeah. I'm making sure that I have this written down so we have like record of this.
So this theory is that the drones were being used to project holograms in the sky, simulating an alien invasion or otherworldly phenomenon as part of a grand plan by global elites or the government to control the populace or usher in a new world order. Which seems like, when you put all the facts together, is the most likely explanation probably out there.
Oh boy.
So this is actually okay. So first of all, this is ridiculous. And
how dare you?
A waste of that technology. Obviously, you would not use that technology to do alien invasion. What you would do is you would create a super suit, and then you'd have this big helmet globe on your head. And then you would fly around and protect all the people from these giant monsters, like a water monster or a ghost monster. And then that would all be illusions created by tons of drones working together in this network. And then you actually just see the smoke around the drones. And then I come in and fix it and save the day as the superhero.
Brilliant.
Maybe that's the plot of Spider-Man Far From Home. Whatever, but close enough.
Oh, is that what you were explaining? Wow. I wasn't even following. I thought you were making that up on the go. Yeah. To leave on a happy note, one of the conspiracy theories were the drones were Secret Santa's reindeer scout team, which I think, that could probably
no. Yeah. All other controversy. What is it? Not controversies. Conspiracy. I know so little about conspiracy theories that I even forgot what it was called. But anyway, all other conspiracy theories are now out the window. It is 100%. It is reindeer. It's reindeer. So it's reindeer scouts. Is it drones in the shape of reindeer, or is it drones forming a reindeer.
Well,
or
the theory claims that the drones were part of a secret operation by Santa Claus to scout out the best routes in urban landscapes for his sleigh's journey on Christmas Eve. And that's why we don't hear about it anymore, because Christmas is over. Although the next Christmas is right around the corner.
It's right around the corner.
It's right around the corner to Ryan.
For those who don't get that joke, I don't know when he first said it. He's like, Christmas is right around the corner. It was July. It was like,
Yeah.
like it's not.
These
It's
years
half a
keep
year
going
away.
by faster. Every year I get older, they go by faster.
It does feel faster. That's true. So anyway, I think that the logic of the Santa thing is 100% makes the most sense for sure.
Well, write into our show and let us know your best theory of what these, whether true or maybe heavily conspiracy labeled. Let us know what you think.
Or conspiratrue, whenever.
Conspirator.
Let us know. DestinationLinux.net/comments.
The real news is the things that are buzzing that you can't hear, is there's new satellite mobile connections that I want to talk about, because this is fascinating to me. So our very own Wendy used to have very severely limited internet due to living in a rural area. And in fact, a lot of people don't know, we've covered it in past shows, but there's a lot of places in the United States alone, all over the world, but in the United States alone, that have limited access or no access to internet at all. In fact, there are estimated 42 million people in the United States that do not have access to the internet.
And not even like dial-up internet, nothing.
No internet, none. And then there's 129 million people who only have one internet option, and sometimes that option is literally dial-up or worse.
Yeah.
So there's, we think of the United States as, we've got this super fast internet everywhere and big cities, lots of technology. Not the case in rural areas, right? We don't have very good internet. But Wendy uses something called Starlink, which has been a super powerful tool all the way around in connecting people to the internet with high speeds. And it's consistent enough that you can even do things like video live streaming or gaming. And that's incredible, because even in the rural areas that could get internet, usually it was very unreliable. And the satellites that existed before, there was a company that used to do it. They would advertise, but it was like super slow and really expensive, like hundreds of dollars a month. It was like Hughes or something like that, if I recall. But it was, it was not good. But it was like a last ditch.
HughesNet. Yeah, HughesNet.
Yeah, HughesNet. I actually have a little experience with that one, because my mother bought it one time. She got finagled into it. I said, Mom, why did you get rid of your fiber? She actually got finagled into it. She's older and not thinking right. And you was wondering why it was so slow and why half the time it didn't work. And it was bad.
Give salespeople a bad name.
Yeah.
But it used to be the satellite internet was like spotty at best, and the latency was horrendous.
Yeah. And this was years ago. This is like probably early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, listen, that their commercials ran everywhere. So I could see people being fooled into thinking like, hey, maybe this is satellite sounds like it would be faster than fiber if you're not a technology person. I want my signal from outer space.
Yeah.
But, obviously, if you have access to fiber and things, that's still better than even what Starlink's offering. But Starlink's getting better and better. More satellites they put up there, more space trash they put up there, then the better the signals.
Space debris.
Space debris, yeah. But Starlink has a new feature they're introducing called direct to cell, and this fascinates me. I've been in the cell phone industry for 25 plus years, and so watching the technology change and evolve is incredible. But one of the things that, have always been dreamed about for phones is being able to connect to satellite. But the question is, do you need a special phone for that? Is the phone going to be gigantic? We've all seen satellite phones before. Military things utilize them. They're usually huge. And how is the technology, the signal is going to work getting between the two? We're going to use a proprietary signal algorithm to get between the satellite to the phone or whatnot. But they've figured out a way to use LTE. So every phone that has LTE compatible can connect without needing any device net modifications or new phone, making the service really accessible to a huge audience here. And what's insane about this is that when you're utilizing your cell phone, and there's a lot of people who like to go on outdoor adventures. There's people who live in rural areas. There's people who go visit rural areas. That's the biggest fear is you don't have any cell phone signal. You break your leg, you fall down a hill, emergency happens. You've got nobody you can talk to. And this is now saying basically this advancement could enable people in any location, whether you're isolated in rainforests, you're on a boat in the ocean, you're in a desert.
You're climbing we're free climbing in a desert and you get stuck for 127 hours.
It's very
all
specific.
sorts of.
It's
another movie reference. Anyway,
you're in a zombie apocalypse that Jill's predicting is going to happen in what year, Jill? Or is it this year? Is the zombie apocalypse coming?
It might be.
Feels like it probably.
I feel like it has been with our fires here in Los Angeles.
I bet. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting kind of segue there too, Jill, because Starlink has also been utilized to help do something interesting in California. Are you aware of what they did with Starlink there?
Yeah. So they're bringing them into the areas that were affected by the fires, because it turns out that the fire not only burned homes, it burned all the transmitters, the cell transmitters. So Starlink is coming in and starting to fix that. Actually, they have been for the last few days, and I've even seen their trucks actually going down the street. I was like, okay.
So they sent a fleet of Cybertrucks and they arranged them with Starlinks connected to them, because they obviously, Cybertrucks have batteries in them so they can run these things for a long time. And then this fleet of Cybertrucks set up kind of like a mesh network of the Starlink so people could connect and communicate with loved ones and
so cool.
enable the communication, which is really
very cool.
Really neat. Kind of use case for that. And beyond voice calls, the system is expected to support text messaging, data services, and Internet of Thing integration, further enhancing global connectivity. So there was somebody who wrote in a while back talking about having a rural spot they lived in and they needed cameras for it. And, so this, when you think of Internet of Things in rural spots, you may have a shed or a workplace or something out there, a research center, even out in the middle of nowhere that you need internet connectivity to, and this would enable that. Before we go on any further, I do want to mention, I know a lot of people hate Elon Musk right now and all that, and we don't get involved in politics on this show. So we're just going to give all the credit to the amazing engineers that made Starlink and avoid any of that conversation, because it's still cool tech, and the engineers are brilliant that have put this together.
Technological advancement of this sort of stuff is awesome. Like, there's so many cool things. I mean, the LTE connection where you can have, even if you're talking about the rural areas or the like deserted areas and you're like out in the ocean or something and you get stuck for like the boat stops working or whatever, like all these different things are very important things, but also that even just traveling abroad is very difficult to get cell service and stuff like that, depending on your carrier and all that. So this would be like a fantastic backup if you were a traveler, because this would be, you wouldn't have to worry about where you are and if you have connections and stuff like that. So there's so many use cases for this would be just great. So technologically speaking, this is very, very cool.
Well, a lot of the vloggers I watch on YouTube that are travel vloggers are using Starlink to do all their, upload all their videos and basically produce their shows, and they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Starlink. Because they're able to go to those remote places and upload the data. So having the cells makes sense. In fact, it's kind of funny that the data came first before the cell phone functionality.
Right? The Starlink satellites broadcast on these frequencies that are compatible with the LTE. So they really thought ahead to have the ability to do that. And then it uses signal amplification as well. So the satellites have the capability to receive and amplify the signal they're getting from the smartphone, even though the signal could be super weak. Obviously, at the distance, the satellite can detect it with its very sensitive receivers and boost it back to Earth or other satellites to keep transmitting it, which is just crazy. I want to see it in action, but the concept is just crazy here. It just seems super, super cool. So very excited about that. Satellites on our phones. It's a thing. It's going to be like the AI on our phones, satellites on our phones. And now,
very cool.
before there probably were places where Google couldn't track you, and now they can track you 100% anywhere you go. Thanks.
Anywhere you want to go, thanks to Starlink. But it's also like that reminds me, because I was going to make a joke about negative too, because it reminds me of the plot of one of the Marvel movies. I don't remember which one, but there was a thing where they made
really
like
movies today.
I don't know why, but it does kind of correlate to having like a giant satellite system that just tracks everybody, and then the problem is like people get, who has control of this can be like the worst situation. And it's like a dome around the planet sort of thing of satellites. And now I'm thinking like maybe, for all the conspiracy theories people out there, just, have food for thought.
People are going to be really traumatized over this.
People are going to be like, hey, I think people are going to be thinking like, hey, Ryan, where's the Linux in this show?
Listen, Android is Linux, phones, satellite. Yeah. Hello. And what do you think operating system the satellites run?
Probably
guaranteed.
Linux. Oh, yeah.
Probably Linux. Like 99.9% chance they're using Linux. In fact, the OS that Starlink's using, 99.9% Linux. In fact, can we have one of our fact checkers in our patron room validate that the satellites, Starlink, just that Starlink uses Linux? I'm sure they're using the embedded Linux, some embedded Linux version to run those.
Probably.
Things.
And in the meantime, let's move on to the next topic.
Jill, how are we going to get over the trauma of the show?
Oh, there's a good way to do that, Ryan. There has been no shortage of trauma-inducing events over the last few years, including what I have been dealing with the LA fires and the hurricanes we've been having across the U.S. and all the major catastrophes. And so that's why I wanted to bring up some interesting studies around the classic block rotation game created in 1984, Tetris, in our gaming session. Playing Tetris after a traumatic event has actually been shown to reduce the frequency of intrusive memories and symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, as supported by research where participants who played Tetris reported fewer flashbacks. This is awesome. And studies suggest that engaging in Tetris gameplay within the first 6 hours post-trauma can act as a cognitive vaccine by disrupting the consolidation of traumatic memories, potentially preventing the establishment of PTSD symptoms, as a lot of us who have been through some very serious things know, and I think most everyone has been through something that has caused PTSD at some point in their lives. And the effectiveness of Tetris in this context is attributed to its visually demanding nature, which compete for the brain's visual processing capacity and interfering with the memory consolidation process of traumatic visuals. And the interesting part is that this isn't just one study. There are now several studies dating back all the way to 2009 that have all come to the same conclusion. This is really amazing for one of the first computer games that took off in the world.
Yeah, it went viral. Yeah.
It went viral. It's on everything. So, next time you or someone you love is dealing with some trauma-inducing events, try a game of Tetris out, and you might help hack your brain.
This is also
amazing.
Tetris is the fact that this has been shown in studies is very cool, and it's also funny because just a couple months ago, I got hooked into watching like hardcore Tetris playing, like super not like super intense battles of Tetris players and stuff like that. And I don't know why, but I watched this documentary about it, and there was like after 31 years. Someone finally beat Tetris.
Yeah, the little kid.
It was a little kid who's like 15.
Yeah.
And I was seeing how they were doing it, and they're not even playing it in the normal way. So they have like their hands on the controller, and they're like kind of rolling their fingers on the bottom of the controller. And just because your hands can't keep up with the normal usage of the controller, so they had to invent a new way of using the controller for Tetris, like the high speed stuff. And then there's a so like every round of Tetris is like 10 lines. Once you cross 10 lines, it's a new round. And there's this part where when they were figuring how to beat Tetris, it was designed to never be beaten. Like its whole purpose is to never get to that point. And the way they decided it was beaten is because you went so far in the game that the game just broke. And it just stopped working.
Yes.
So it would glitch out, and certain types of like certain tiers or certain, I forgot what it's called, but like certain rounds, it starts changing the colors and things start breaking and it just starts glitching everywhere. And then instead of the 10 lines per round thing, once you get to a certain, I think it's like, I don't know, 250 rounds somewhere there, the lines you have to clear is 800. And then once you clear 800 lines, then you go to the next round, and then it changes everything. And at the point where you can barely see the blocks anymore, and it's crazy. And then people are like actually creating these world records, and there's like this huge community of building it and stuff like that. I was so fascinated that when you
geeked out on Tetris, man.
I geeked out on watching Tetris, watching other people play Tetris.
That is pathetic. You can't play it, but
I can play it. I can. Okay, challenge. Earlier I made a joke, but I challenge you. I challenge you to a game. To a versus Tetris match. I will crush you.
I'm going to play it on Debian so it glitches out immediately and I win.
No, actually, I win because it took you too long to compile it.
Tetris already comes on Debian. You can play it in the terminal.
Okay,
but
that works
what was
better.
awesome about that, I saw that same documentary. Actually, there have been a few of them floating around, and I even saw a web conference with the 15-year-old boy and Alexei Pajitnov, who invented Tetris, and he was blown away by what the 15-year-old had done. And it says, you are the winner. You won the game.
I mean, it's actually super interesting. Awesome. I watched so much stuff of this, and it's like to the point where you can just watch Tetris and it's soothing. You don't even have to play it. You can just watch it, and it's
so true.
It also works, I think.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Tetris clones in the software store if you want to play Tetris now that you've heard this, but this is a really great thing. Jill, you're dealing with, no joke, like a lot of people are dealing with a lot of trauma right now in California and things. And so North Carolina, California, all these places have been hit with this. That's, I know people probably don't feel like they're in the mood to play a game right now, but obviously this is something may take your brain off of those events for a little while and let you kind of, woosah and get a little break from it. So it's really cool that they've done these studies, and it's really interesting. It's Tetris. I think this is a big brain game. Like, to me, if you're good at Tetris, like like people are good at chess, people are good at Tetris. To me, they're all in the same category of big brain. So I think it's a really cool thing to take your time to learn out there. So by the way, just to follow up on the Starlink satellites. So each of SpaceX Starlink satellites run Linux. It is reported that the launch of 60 Starlink satellites includes more than 4,000 Linux computers, contributing to a constellation of more than 30,000 Linux nodes and over 6,000 microcontrollers in space. This was discussed by SpaceX software engineers during an AMA on Reddit. So
nice.
Yes, we power Starlink, and that makes me happy.
You're welcome, Starlink.
Yeah, I knew they must have, because SpaceX here in Los Angeles, a lot of the developers were using Debian and Red Hat, so it just makes sense.
Nice. Love it. By the way, speaking of Red Hat, Michael, I'm putting you on the spot. Michael and I are going to Red Hat Summit. Michael was like, I think I am, but he has to now because I announced it on the show. We're going to Red Hat Summit.
Is that how that works, huh?
Super excited. We're going to be there. Is it May? It's May. We'll get the exact date.
19th through 22nd.
19th to 22nd. Yeah. So if you want to hang out with us, see us, whatever, go to Red Hat Summit. Even if you don't want to hang out with us, Red Hat Summit's amazing, and we've been invited back. So
and even if you don't want to go to the Red Hat Summit, but you want to hang out with us, we'll be in Boston.
Either way.
That's where Red Hat Summit is.
Can you imagine they re-invited us back?
I know.
Yay.
They actually liked us and want us to come back. That's crazy.
They didn't say like in the email. They just said, I guess, sort of, if you guys want to. It actually
they didn't say they liked us. They said they liked our content. that we made.
Yeah.
So,
and they said, "Can Jill please come this time?" Because they really want
please
Jill.
let Jill
really
come.
want
That's what
Jill.
it's-
You know, so we're trying to. Maybe
We'll see.
one day we'll get Jill
Yeah.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael, you are taking over the software spotlight because you introduced me. I actually installed this, and I'm kind of in love with this. Although I've left it default so far with what it gave.
Of course, you did.
Tell us about the software spotlight this week.
So the software spotlight is it's kind of a pie menu. If you've ever heard, if you've been on Linux for a long time, there's been a couple of these. One was called GNOME Pie, and it gives you like a circular style menu. But this one is called, I think, Kando. So Ryan apparently has a can-do attitude, and so this is a cross-platform tool that works on every OS that you probably maybe not every OS, but most of them. And you can basically have an interaction of opening different applications or functions and keyboard shortcuts and all sorts of stuff by moving your mouse. You click like an empty area, and then you move your mouse a certain direction, and you can activate stuff. But you can also do multi-tier menus. So it's kind of like doing gestures, but with your mouse. So, and it's more of like a very customized thing. So instead of having just like one gesture that does one thing, you can do very quickly by going from one main menu to multiple sub menus, and then finally to activate whatever you want. And it's just by the movement of your mouse. So you click on your desktop, you move around, and then you can different directions will activate different menus and different sub menus. It's hard to really explain in the audio version so those who are curious, just go check out the links in the show notes. You can see the video demo because it is very cool and it's very customizable, and you can make it do all sorts of stuff. And there is a flat pack for it if you want to check it out. So it's really easy to get access to it. You don't have to compile it. And but it's very cool application.
And I've actually been using the Kando Pie menu for quite some time. I've known about it for a few years. And I've actually used it to create quick links to websites I visit often for doing my Destination Linux show notes. In fact, I used it yesterday. And I also use it for a quick way to mute, play, and pause my audio when playing music and YouTube videos. So
I thought you were going to say it's a quick way to mute Ryan when he's talking.
No.
Jill, do you have a gesture to mute me?
No.
She's lying. Did you see how she responded? Oh my God.
She was very hesitant, very coy. No.
Does like an R or something, or a D for Dust Geek? I don't know. One of those.
It's an R with a slash through it.
Yeah, there we go.
You're on tour. All right. Jill, how can we use AI more effectively? Because we've gone through this whole episode. We've not talked about AI.
We have to bring in it at least once per episode, people.
Yeah,
it's a rule.
Our tip of the week this week is making effective use of your favorite AI program more efficient by utilizing the attachment features available in most of the AI tools. For example, let's say you're working with a data set that's not integrated into the AI tool, but you need it to write you some code. The problem is it doesn't know the tables nor the output. So give it an example by uploading screenshots, and it can interpret those images by providing you with the code you need that's more specific to the actual data you're working with to improve the AI and the output.
Yeah, it helps it learn. And its ability to interpret images is incredible. So one of the other things that you can do to enhance your ability with AI is you can even draw out something like you want to create an interface for a new program. Draw it out on a napkin or a piece of paper, and then take a picture of it and tell AI to make and code an interface that operates like the picture. And it is incredibly effective at taking pictures, almost better than prompting it, and being able to interpret things from that picture and write better code, I find, than a lot of prompts in there. And I know there's prompt engineering and things where people spend a lot of time learning the prompts. Maybe they can do it better. But pictures have been a really effective way to use AI, and I don't see a lot of people doing it. And so I think it's really something you should check out.
I have only done it in like a very tiny amount of like using it as an example of stuff. Like I want to look something similar or whatever, that kind of thing. But this is very interesting. I never thought about like interpreting it and trying to, do an output through the image or a prompt through the image. That's very interesting.
Yeah. And like Jill mentioned with the data sets, it can be very effective with that because now it has table names. It has some example because you don't have to screenshot all the data, maybe just the output of a SQL code, the first 10 lines or something. And now it kind of understands what each table represents, the type of data that's stored in it, the format it's stored in, and the tables available to it, or the actual columns available to it for it to write code around. So utilize pictures, check it out, see what you think. I bet you're going to find your AI skills improve tremendously with that. All right, so a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. We did it. We got through every single topic on this episode. So we've been getting feedback, Michael, that people were like, let it run. Let it go on for 4 or 5 hours. We just want you to finish the episode. And the thing is, Wendy has to edit it, and she has a temper. Like she
yells at us if we go too long, people.
Yeah.
We're
through Starlink satellites. She can reach us. So, listen, however you enjoy the show, whether you listen to it only on a podcast, I suggest you check out the YouTube version. Sometimes it's great to see our faces. But no matter how you enjoy our show, we love your faces. And you can join us on Discord by going to tuxdigital.com/Discord and come hang out with the community that we have there. It's growing. It's awesome. They're great people. They're amazing. You want to come hang out with them.
And we're there too.
We're there too.
And if you want to support the show and the Tux Digital Network, then go to tuxdigital.com/membership and become a patron. You get a bunch of cool perks, like getting access to the patron-only section of our Discord server, where you can watch the show live. You can join us in the patron post show that happens every week after the show. You can get access to unedited episodes, and you can even get some merch discounts in our store. We have a store. That's right. tuxdigital.com/store. So go there. You can get some hats, mugs, hoodies, t-shirts, all sorts of stuff, and so much more. tuxdigital.com/store.
And make sure to check out our awesome shows here on Tux Digital. That's right. We have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with geeky goodness. Head to tuxdigital.com to keep those Linux penguins marching.
Everybody, try to have a good week because the zombie apocalypse is coming. Jill forecasted it. But try to have a good week.
Play some Tetris, people.
Yeah, play some Tetris. And remember, the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Love you all.
Most of you. Hey, Jill, can you give us a little more accurate prediction of when the zombie apocalypse is going to happen? Like, we think in 3 days, like 5 days?
I think April 1st.
It's right around the corner.
Since it's right around the corner.
The zombie apocalypse is right around the corner.
Great.
See you next week, everybody. Or will we? But it's not.
Yeah.